Live from the Scripps Studios, this is 10 News.
Chaos erupts in the middle of a youth soccer tournament. Adults and children running for their lives after reports that someone pulled a gun after a brawl among players and spectators. But first, your voice, your vote. Residents of East County's 50th Congressional District woke up to a new reality today. They no longer have representation in Congress. Good evening. I'm Steve Atkinson.
And I'm Kimberly Hunt in for Lindsay Pena. Congressman Duncan Hunter officially stepped down today after pleading guilty to one count of felony campaign fraud last month. And 10 News reporter John Horn is joining us now in studio. We immediately turn to who voters may pick to replace him, John.
Absolutely. And the holidays are over. It's the new year, so get ready. It's going to be a heated campaign leading up to that March 3rd primary. Our new 10 News Union Tribune scientific poll shows a Democrat leading a crowded field with two big-name Republicans in a virtual dead heat for the second spot. The top two vote getters, regardless of party, move on to the November runoff. Congressman Duncan Hunter hung on to his seat more than a month after pleading guilty to a count of campaign fraud. But his powers had been weakened long before he stepped down Monday.
For 2 years now, we've had a member of Congress who didn't serve on any committees, and that's where you really help your district, okay? For the past over a month now, we've had a congressman who couldn't vote.
Those privileges will be restored to the person who ultimately replaces Hunter in the 50th district. Our new 10 News Union Tribune scientific poll shows Democrat Amar Campanajjar leading the field with 26%. Household Republicans Darrell Issa and Carl DeMaio are in a close race for second at 21 and 20% respectively.
I think what this poll shows is that the 50th district is now returning to politics as usual.
Political analyst Thad Kauser noted that Republican votes add up to beat a Democrat, which would not bode well for Campanajjar should he make it to November's two-person runoff. In 2018, Campanajjar narrowly lost to Hunter, who was indicted about 3 months before the election.
Those Democrats uniting behind Amar Campanajjar looks very likely that he'll advance to November. But there are even more votes out there for Republicans.
And the new year brings new competition for those votes. With the state's primary moved up to March, analysts say they expect a barrage of advertising to begin now that the holidays are over. And the poll surveyed 618 people registered to vote in California. Of those, 512 were likely voters. And when it came to choosing a candidate to replace Hunter, respondents said their top issues were character of the candidate, border security, and holding the president accountable. John Horn, 10 News.
John, thank you. Governor Newsom has already said that a special election would not be called to fill Hunter's seat. We did check with Hunter's office, and we're told that the office will remain open and staff will continue to work on individual issues as before, but will not be advocating policy.
Well, 10 News follow-up on the deadly boat fire that killed 34 people off the Southern California coast. The family of the lone crew member who died is now suing the owner of the scuba diving boat, the Conception. The lawsuit claims Truth Aquatics knew the boat was unsafe and lacked required smoke detectors and fire equipment. The suit comes after Truth Aquatics filed a claim to protect itself under an old law that limits liability of boat owners.
This was a heartless, callous act which inflicted further pain on these families.
The boat caught fire back in September as people slept. The NTSB and Coast Guard are still investigating the cause.
There is new information about the Alliant University student who was killed in that Iran plane crash. Today, Sarah Sadat's fellow classmates held a ceremony to honor her life.
10 News reporter Mimi Alcala is joining us from Scripps Ranch. And Mimi, it was a somber first day back to school for these students.
It was, Kimberly, Steve. There was a moment of silence held here on campus near the Canadian flag because Sarah was from Canada but living here in San Diego. Today, the students returned from break, now coping with the loss of one of their own.
Sarah had just finished her first semester of a 4-year coursework program.
And 23-year-old Sarah Sadat would have been starting her second semester at Alliant International University today. She was seeking her doctoral degree in clinical psychology.
Sarah's program of study was a PsyD in clinical psychology, and with that she was intending to be a practicing professional and see clients in a therapeutic manner. I know she wanted to make an impact on our community.
Instead, her life was cut short, and now classmates are dealing with the heartbreaking loss, holding a moment of silence to honor her memory. They tell me she was important to their Alliant family, and accepting her death has been difficult. But they say the faculty and staff have been supportive and proactive in allowing the students to have spaces on campus to cope.
We have on-campus grief counselors today who are specifically trained in trauma and critical response.
Sarah was Canadian but of Iranian descent. She, her mother, and 21-year-old sister visited family in Iran over the winter break. Last week, they were on their way back to Canada when their plane was shot down shortly after leaving Tehran's airport. All 176 people on board were killed. Now this community that calls itself strong and resilient will work to honor Sarah's legacy.
I know she wanted to make an impact on our community.
And her friends and classmates are planning a celebration of life for sometime next week. As soon as the details become available, we'll bring that to you. But for now, we're live in Scripps Ranch. Mimi Alcala, 10 News.
A tough day there. Thank you, Mimi. Attorney General William Barr says the deadly shooting at a naval air station in Florida was an act of terrorism. Last month, a 21-year-old Saudi Air Force second lieutenant killed 3 American sailors at the base in Pensacola. Barr said the shooter's social media helped investigators conclude his attack was motivated by jihadist ideology. Yesterday, the U.S. removed 21 Saudi servicemen training at military bases. They're accused of possessing child pornography and anti-American material. There are new details about the investigation into potential cheating by the Houston Astros during their World Series title run in 2017.
A new report from Major League Baseball shows widespread scheme to steal signs electronically. Our 10 News Sports Director Ben Higgins is here with the punishments handed out today, and they were severe.
Yeah, this is not good. Some people think baseball didn't go far enough, that they should have stripped the Astros of their World Series championship. That didn't happen, but other teams will now think twice before trying something similar. Well, that banging sound, first described publicly by Twitter user Jomboy, was how the Astros alerted batters to the type of pitch that was coming. A center field camera caught the signals, and they were relayed by banging on a trash can. That scheme, mostly devised by players and then bench coach Alex Cora, was used to help the Astros get to and beat the Dodgers in the World Series. Today, Major League Baseball fined the Astros $5 million, took away 4 draft picks, and suspended manager A.J. Hinch and general manager Jeff Luhnow for an entire season. Luhnow denied knowing about the scheme but accepted the decision. Hinch, who used to work in the Padres front office, says he disapproved of the cheating tactics but ultimately didn't stop it and also accepted the punishment. Both men were then fired from their jobs by Astros owner Jim Crane. Alex Cora, now manager of the Red Sox, could be facing a similar punishment. Former player Carlos Beltran, now manager of the Mets, could also be looking at a suspension. So obviously they are taking this very seriously.
Yeah, it taints a team.
Oh,
no
absolutely. Taints an entire World Series title.
Absolutely.
Everybody involved. Thank you, Ben.
New surveillance video sheds light on a crash that killed an off-duty sheriff's deputy in Los Angeles. Investigators say Detective Amber Least saw an elderly woman struggling to cross the street yesterday morning, so she got out of her car and ran over to help. But a driver crashed into Least as she was headed back to her own car. Investigators say the vehicle had the green light and the driver stayed on scene and is cooperating. Least died at the hospital. She was with the sheriff's department for 12 years.
The couple behind a shooting rampage on a kosher market in New Jersey may have been plotting an even deadlier attack. That's according to the FBI. Authorities say the van belonging to David Anderson and Francine Graham had a bomb inside powerful enough to scatter shrapnel across 5 football fields. Last month, the couple killed 4 people, including a police detective. The FBI says the suspects were motivated by bias against the Jewish community and law enforcement. And there are new developments from London, where the Queen has agreed on a period of transition for Prince Harry and Meghan Markle.
As ABC's Julia McFarlane explains, well, this comes a week after the couple announced they want to step back from their roles as senior members of the royal family.
The highly anticipated meeting of the royal family at Sandringham today ended with a statement from the Queen. In it, she expressed her support for her grandson Prince Harry and his wife Meghan and their wishes to live a more independent life. Though, in a rare personal remark, she admits she, quote, would have preferred them to remain full-time working members of the royal family.
For the couple, it's just about preserving their mental health, remaining happy and being able to work in an environment that suits them best.
In Harry and Meghan's bombshell statement last week, they said they wanted to split their time between the UK and North America. That wish appears for now to be granted today, with the Queen saying that all parties agreed on a period of transition in which the Sussexes will spend time in both Canada and Britain. The decision to spend more time in Meghan's adoptive home may stem in part from the relentless media coverage by British tabloids, something Harry and Meghan spoke openly about in an interview last October with their close friend, journalist Tom Bradby.
Because the British tabloids will destroy your life.
But extricating themselves from the royal family is proving complex.
This has never been done before. No one's been half in and half out of the royal family.
Areas of negotiation covering everything from their titles, who funds them, and who will pay their security detail. And at the forefront of negotiations, the need to keep the British taxpayer happy.
He's a royal and that's it. I certainly don't think we should pay for security if he wants to try and remove himself from all of this, but I just don't see how he can.
Last week, the palace was seeking a solution in days, not weeks. In her statement tonight, the Queen conceding that these are complex matters for my family to resolve and there is some more work to be done. Julia McFarlane, ABC News, London.